Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where we say, oh, is there nothing that has the ring to it like cold and soulless? Man, when people talk about the tech industry or their company as cold and soulless, it just puts a little smile on my face. Oh, that's the industry. That's the industry I have a slightly abusive, codependent relationship with. Oh, thank God. Thank God. We're back. No more avocado toast in the morning. No more nap pods. You're going to get coffee. You're going to get all the fucking coffee you can drink. Then we're going to work you 24 hours a day. That's the world I know. So yeah, this is interesting. So AWS is laying off yet more employees. And I kind of think this is interesting basically because of that comment of it being cold and soulless. Yes. As it should be. As it should be. I think this is going to be a painful thing for a lot of the millennials out there, and especially the Gen Zers that are actually in the workforce. They've been lied to. They've been lied to for the past decade, basically with this idea that companies or the organizations they work for should give a fuck about anything other than the product that the employee is producing, right? Back in the day, it was all about ROI, return on investment. You hire somebody, and depending where they were on the org chart, there was an expectation they were supposed to bring back multiples of whatever work they did, basically bring back enough revenue to pay for everything else, right? So if you have a line employee, if you have an employee out there that's actually doing the work that the company gets paid for, basically they should bring in 4x whatever they're getting paid. If you get paid $25,000 a year, that means you're billing $100,000 a year. You're getting paid $100,000 a year, you're billing $400,000 a year, right? And the reason for that is because in order for you to do your work, you have to have a lot of support services behind you, you have to have facilities, you have to have toilet paper, you have to have coffee, you have to have secretaries, you have to have profit so the CEO can buy a yacht. There's a whole bunch of those things in there. And so basically the big push was, again, understanding why you hired the employees, what value that they were bringing to the company, and as soon as they stop bringing value to the company, cut them loose and let them figure out how to feed themselves, right? It's not the company's responsibility, and I've talked about this before. You can be nicer or meaner about this, but this is basically how companies operate. What's weird is over the past decade, you've heard more and more of this horse crap about what owners and bosses and leaders is supposed to do. What a real leader does. Oh, fuck off, right? Does your paycheck clear? That's what matters. That's what matters, right? Are you getting the hours that you agreed to? Especially if you're a salary position, right? You agreed to working 40 hours a week. Theoretically, they could push that up to 60 hours a week if you have a project or whatever. Are you doing 60 hours a week, 1 week out of every 9, or are you doing 60 hours a week every week out of 2, right? If you're doing that much overtime, that's a problem. Your boss is screwing up, or they're just trying to work you into the ground, one or the other, right? If your paycheck doesn't clear, that's the boss's problem. If you go to the coffee pot and there's no fucking coffee, that's the boss's problem. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of things that are the boss's problem. Why you are on planet Earth, what the hell you should be doing with your life, figuring out enlightenment or any of that other horse crap is not your boss's job. The only reason, right, these jackasses were placated for the past decade is because interest rates were so low, it was incredibly cheap to borrow money. Basically, wealthy people, they borrow money when it costs them 1% per year. They invest that into investments. They think they're going to get 20% per year, and they take the spread home. They take 19% of whatever that is home in profit per year just by taking money from this place and putting money into this place, right? If you do that for $1 million, you're taking 190 grand home per year just for taking money from here and putting it there. $10 million, $1.9 million per year you're getting. You figure out how to get $100 million from here to here, you're bringing home $19 million per year. Just for saying, thank you for the money, here's the money, right? Anyways, right, in order to make that whole idiocy work, technology companies needed to prove that they were growing. They didn't have profit. They didn't have revenue. They didn't have real user growth that made half an ounce of sense. So in order to impress the investors, they just hired more people, right? Obviously, we're doing good because we're hiring more people. The problem is you hire more and more of lower and lower quality technology employees. How the hell are you going to keep them happy? How are you going to keep them there? By giving them avocado toast, by giving them nap pods, by giving them everything in the world other than actual work to do. So anyways, all of that's unwinding. All of that is unwinding because I was stupid to begin with. It was idiotic in 2015. It's idiotic in 2025. And so now all these companies are doing massive layoffs. And Amazon continues to do layoffs. And the curious thing is how they're getting nastier about it. So one of the big things before is when there were layoffs, a lot of these companies, and this is where you have to really understand the tone of what's going on with the culture, the technology culture. A lot of these companies in the past were really nice when they fired you. So they didn't want to fire you, but if you're such a worthless piece of garbage, they actually did have to fire you. They actually want to be nice about it. They didn't want to hurt your feelings, right? Because you did have an ass. You did have an ass. And there might be a point in time when they might need a seat with an ass in it. So they might want you back, right? So they gave awesome severance pay, like just insane severance packages. They'd be really nice to the people as they let them go. This whole, right, coddling from boot camp to grave as far as the corporation was concerned, right? They would coddle you. And the idea, though, is that they did not want to damage their reputation, right? If they did normal layoffs. If they did the layoffs that people like me had to deal with back 20 years ago, the thing is, people take that kind of personal sometimes, and then they don't want to deal with companies anymore, right? They were mean to me. I don't want to deal with them anymore, which is fair enough. So anyways, these companies were being really, really nice with the layoffs and that kind of thing. Just so, hey, you know, we want you to know that you can apply again in the future. We might need an ass like yours in the future. So even though we're letting you go now, right? And that was the thing. So Twitter, when they laid off people, they were really nice about it. Meta laid off people, they were really nice about it. Amazon laid off people, they were really nice about it because they're just like, oh, right. Well, now we're getting to the point where everybody knows how fucking worthless most of these employees are, right? Like we just got fucking so many employees. We just nobody gives a shit anymore. Who the fuck cares? It's like, you know what? You know, even if we piss off 10,000 of these jackasses, even if we piss off 100,000 of these jackasses, who cares? There's just so fucking many of them. And so what we're seeing more and more of is that the corporations, they just stopped playing nice because they know they don't have to. And a lot of people are getting their feelings hurt, which is, yeah, I don't know how it goes. Laid off AWS employee describes cuts as, quote, cold and soulless. Amazon.com CEO Andy Jassy's predictions that automation would cost jobs at the company have proven accurate at AWS. The Amazon confirmed to the Register today that jobs will go at least several teams at AWS, though the company declined to provide specifics on numbers at which teams were involved. We understand around 100 jobs are at stake. So there's not a huge number of jobs being lost here, but also remember, this is after thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been laid off. One of the things you have to be careful about if you're trying to go out there and get a job is like big numbers make the news. Small numbers, a shit ton of times don't. Right? If you lay off 10,000 people like me are going to be talking about it. Oh my God. Here's the thing. You lay off 100 people 100 times. Like 100 people from this division. And then 100 people from this division, and then 100 people from this division, and 100 people from this division. They put a little spread on that. It's one of those things that goes under the radar, right? Fewer and fewer and fewer jobs. But it's whether or not does it seem important enough that it gets into the news cycle. And this is where it can be really weird when you're going out there to try to get a job, because you might be like, well, I heard the layoffs are done. I've heard these companies are not laying off anymore. It's like, well, they're not laying off thousands at a time anymore. They might still be laying off, chunks at a time, though. Quote, after a thorough review of our organization, our priorities, and what we need to focus on going forward, we've made the difficult business decision to eliminate some roles across particular teams in AWS, company spokesperson Brad Glazier told them in an email. An AWS spokesperson told us that despite these layoffs, overall headcount will grow as the business unit has thousands of open roles. And that's the other thing you have to be careful about. So one of the things that you're being told now is, okay, there's all these layoffs, but the economy isn't bad. The companies aren't doing bad because there are all these open positions, right? You can get laid off, but then there's all these open positions. So actually, employment is getting better. But one of the things you have to think about, well, you're laying all these people off. And so why didn't you just transfer them in the company? Why did you not give them the ability to transfer in the company? And one of the reasons might be is that these are basically ghost positions, right? A position that is not filled is not an employee, right? You can come out and the optics are, look at the optics. We have 2,000 positions open, right? We are growing, we are vibrant, we are a successful company. Look at all these open positions, right? Think about the metrics. Think about the metrics I've talked about before. If you can't get profit, you talk about revenue. If you can't get revenue, you talk about user growth. If you can't get user growth, then you talk about, the daily active users or the monthly active users or the MAU. Remember Twitter? They came up with, I think it was called MAU. It was like monthly, what the fuck was it? It was monetizable monthly users. They literally came up with this. So one of their big metrics for a while there was they literally tracked the number of accounts. They tracked the number of accounts that logged in within a month that they could run an ad against. It wasn't even people. It was accounts. So if you have one person with 10 accounts, if they logged in with any of those accounts, or each account once in a month, they would be monetizable monthly active user, whatever, right? Like think about how they present these numbers in a way to present a certain optic, right? Open positions. Open positions is not asses in seats. It's just open positions. And that's going to be something that you have to be really careful about, right? For any of you folks out there that want jobs. And one of the reasons I don't want to talk about jobs. Again, you want to solve problems. You want to figure out your stack. You want to understand whether you should use Anthropic or OpenAI or whether you should use Olama or whatever. You don't know what the fuck Olama is. I'm more than happy to talk about those subjects. Here's the problem, right? With all you people like, I want a job. You just won't fucking shut up about the job. Look, I get it. I was pulled. I got laid off. I got laid off of a pizza delivery job after I had a college degree, military, MCSE, and the rest of it. I get what it's like to be poor. I was in U District of Seattle. There were 15 of us motherfuckers in one goddamn house. Do you know what it's like to live 15 people in a house and then get laid off of pizza delivery when you have a college degree and everything else? I get it. The whole job thing sucks. I get it. Here's my problem, and here's going to be the problem that anybody that's going to give you advice. Is this market is so fucked up right now. It is so fucked up. And so when you see AWS and you say, despite these, it will grow because they have thousands of open roles. Just because they have those positions on their job boards doesn't mean they're even hiring for those damn things. There is a value for putting up a help wanted ad and not hiring anybody. Anyways, sources familiar with AWS operations who requested anonymity told the Register most of the layoffs affected people in marketing and outreach roles, although chatter on sites like Blind suggests folks in frontline support and in other positions may have been affected too. I think this is going to be the interesting thing too, is with a lot of these tech companies, right? They hired a lot of roles outside of the core tech, right? So tech is valuable. Being a node developer is valuable. How valuable is the marketing person? How valuable is many of the other staff? One of the curious things, one of the quirks that's happened though, is you have these startup companies. And one of the things when you have a company is you have to keep people pretty happy. And one of the ways you keep them happy is by everybody making a similar salary. Many times, regardless of how valuable somebody actually is, right? So if you have a company, right? If you have a young company, startup company, you're taking over the world, right? Your node developers are going to be worth $200,000 a year. Let's just say mid-level node developer, 200,000, senior, I don't know, 250, 500, whatever. Here's the thing. You get a mid-level marketing person in there, and what's their value? What is their actual street value? 50 a year? I'm not being snarky. 50 a year? Maybe 60 a year? Right, probably somewhere around there, right? Because they're fucking marketing. They're fine, but whatever. Here's the thing. If you have all these kids making 150, 200 a year, and you have these marketing professionals at the exact same company making 60 a year, you're going to have some sad marketing professionals. Some sad fucking marketing professionals, right? Right? If so much of your company are just ballers, and then the professionals at your company, not warehouse workers, or the professionals at your company, literally can't even afford to go to grab a drink with your developers or whatever, that's going to cause a lot of issues. So one of the things these companies do is they just boost everybody's salary, right? You're a marketing person, so you might not be worth, $150 a year, but fuck it, we'll give you $125. Right, $125 is less than what they're paying the actual valuable people, but it's a hell of a lot more than you'd be making somewhere else. So it should keep you happy enough. But that's one of the things, right? You talk about like things with salary, like what is the value of a thing? I talked about this before many, many years ago. I drove old white people fucking batshit crazy when they had to deal with me for a while as I tried to understand like value. Trying to explain value to an Aspie. I pity them. I should send them flowers. Anyways, and as I said, I finally had this old white guy just lose his shit at me one day. And it was basically like, look, the only time you know the value of anything is at the exact moment of the transaction. At the moment of the transaction, when somebody hands over the product or service and the other person hands over the currency or whatever else, at that specific moment in time, that is when you know the value of something. Otherwise, you have no fucking clue. And that's why stock markets are good. And they talk about that with how much activity happens in a particular stock, right? If you have one stock that doesn't have very much activity, people rarely buy or sell, it's very hard to understand what the value of that stock really should be. Whereas if you have a stock, let's say like Cisco or Nvidia right now, that's buying and selling 1,000 times per second, right? Every time there's that transaction, you understand what the value is. And so you're getting a reinforcement mechanism thousands of times per second. So you have a pretty good idea what the value is there. The issue then is like with employees, like what is your value? What is your value? Eli, I'm worth $125,000 a year. Well, no, you were worth $125,000 a year to your employer the last time the money got dumped into your account. So a couple of days ago, you were worth $125,000 a year. That doesn't mean today you're worth $125,000 a year. What happens with these companies, again, these startups and these tech companies, where these non-technical employees that have questionable value to the actual company, what is their actual value? What happens when they start getting laid off en masse? What happens when you have a lot of, again, millennials and Gen Z marketing type people, social media type people, those type of people that are kicked to the fucking curb? And the issue then becomes is not only do they get laid off, but what happens when the rest of the industry starts reevaluating how much they pay those types of people? Could get ugly, right? You get a 30-year mortgage and you get laid off 2 years into that 30-year mortgage, and then nobody's willing to pay you the amount of money that you have to make in order to pay that 30-year mortgage. And this is going to be the economy going into 2026. Oh, let's see here. Regardless of who is cut, we're told AWS gave workers no warning. A former employee described the process as, quote, cold and soulless, as it involved just an unheralded email announcing their position had been eliminated. Damn right. Brings a tear to my eye. It's a tear to my eye. Oh, yeah. Quote, from what we can tell, decisions were based largely on titles and high-level optics rather than a nuanced understanding of roles, skills, or actual overlap in responsibilities. A now ex-AWS staffer said one reason for the cuts was AWS is committed to adopting generative AI, quote, as a way to streamline operations and reduce headcount. Our source feels the job cuts are, quote, premature, as Amazon staff remain largely unfamiliar with generative AI tools and have not been trained on the tech. They also said Amazon's generative AI tools are not leading edge. Quote, Amazon's lack of good AI tech stack is making it difficult to keep up with those who can use much stronger models like ChatGPT, the AWS insider said. Quote, this raises the questions about the practicality and timing of such a transition. Or maybe they're just dumping your asses because you're fucking worthless and they're using artificial intelligence as an excuse as far as optics are concerned. So there you go. More layoffs, and they're coming in cold and soulless. And this is how it used to be. Cold and soulless is the best way to do it, to be honest. With this whole thing of you're fired. Basically, you're fired. All of your systems stop working and you're shown out the door by security. And the reason that this is done is so that employees don't do something stupid, right? You know, we have employees in the modern world that believe that they should have apartheid in their auto signatures. This is a real thing. This is a real thing. Anyways, imagine one of your apartheid concerned employees and you tell them they're going to be laid off in a month. Hey, Mr. Apartheid, I just want you to know this company that you work for that's supporting genocide in the Middle East, yeah, we've decided we're going to replace you with artificial intelligence. But don't worry, you're going to have full access to the facilities and systems for the next month so you can more easily transition to wherever you want to go in life. Yeah, does that sound like a smart idea? Your company that quote-unquote supports genocide in the Middle East is now laying off somebody that's all anti-apartheid, and you're going to allow them to touch your systems ever again, right? And that's a big thing to be thinking about, right? With a lot of these activists. We have so many activist employees, right? They're not employees, they're activists. Activist employees. They're not employee activists, they're activist employees, right? So you fire these people, you give them advance notice. What are they going to do as activists? Activists first, employee when they get around to it. This can be a real concern. Everything from spyware, viruses, compromising systems, hacking, that type of thing, to just collecting certain types of information, right? Basically, do they have the ability to collect information that could be embarrassing to the company? If they're willing to embarrass the company while they're actually a company employee, what the hell are they willing to do once they've been fired? Right? These are real concerns. And so that's where if you're going to go in and you're going to fire people, you just fucking fire their asses. You just walk in, you do all the figuring out. You sit down with the people that need to be sat down with, the managers, figure out who's going to go, and then you walk in, fired. And you shut off their systems. Basically, if you're doing your firing correctly, you should be walking into their little fucking cube or their picnic table at the exact same time they're on the phone with the help desk because for some reason their computer isn't allowing them to log in. So I'm at my computer and I got my avocado toast and I got my green juice and all that and I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna do a Zoom call, but I can't get into my computer. And right about that time is when the boss walks up and goes, hey, guess what? What? I'm not your boss anymore. Why? Because you're fired. Out the door. But anyways, that's just one man's opinion. Actually, that's not one man's opinion. That's how it works. That's how it works. So be ready for this. Be ready for this. Because I think it's going to be a very, psychologically, it's going to be very jarring for a lot of people. Just because they've been fed this line of crap for 10 years, some of them for 15 years. The companies care about them, the managers care about them, all this horse crap. And so when they get reintroduced or possibly introduced to reality, it is going to come as a shock, right? You're not a team. You're not a family. Go out and get a fucking family. You know who your family is? Your fucking spouse. But anywho, what do you think about this? What do you think about AWS coldly and soullessly laying off employees? What do you think about these hanger-ons, right? The marketing people and those types of folks that have made lots and lots and lots of money with, being questionable how much their actual position adds to the company. What do you think about all the young people crying as they realize, oh, the company doesn't actually care about you? Anyways, put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, give us an awesome comment or a horrible comment. Remember, it is the modern world of social media. All that matters is that interaction. With that, see y'all later.